Okay, on page 135, we're going to talk about graduated state income tax. And what this does, some states have it set up to be where the more you make, the more they will tax you. And not very many do, most of them just have a flat rate, but there's some of them out there that will just do, as you make more, you get taxed more. Okay? So last chapter we had the graduated commission rates, where after you made so much, you got this rate, and so much, and you got this rate, and so on. Same kind of concept with this one. It says, some states have graduated income tax, which is a system that increases the tax rate at different levels of income. This tax sets a different rate for each of the several levels of income. The tax rate increases as income increases. The tax rate on low income is usually 1 to 3%. The tax rate on high incomes may be as much as 10%. And then they give you a formula which you may or may not have had already. The tax withheld equals the annual tax withheld divided by number of pay periods in a year. And they're referring to per pay period. So for instance, we had those things at the beginning where it said if you got paid monthly or bi-weekly, those types of things are going to come into play with this one. So we figured out how much we get taxed for the year, and then divide it by how many paychecks we get during the course of that year. Okay? So that's the new formula. As far as the steps go, okay, just so that you kind of understand what the steps is. The first step that you'd have to do is find the taxable wages. That's step one. In order to find the taxable wages, you take the annual gross pay and you minus out any exemptions. Okay? We did that already. The exemptions was, remember where we were single, we'd minus 2,000. Married, we'd minus $4,000. Any dependents, we'd minus 2,000 out for each of those. Okay, that's what that first one was. That's step one. Step two is you find the annual state tax. And when you're doing this one, this is where it's going to be almost in chart format like that graduated commission was in chapter 1. Remember in chapter 1 it was this much percent for the first whatever, and then this much percent for the next whatever, and then anything above and beyond it was a different percent. Same concept here. Where it might say 1 to 3% for the first 10,000 or whatever it is, then 5% for the next 10,000, and anything above 20,000, it's at this percent, or something like that. That's how it's going to be. Then the third step that you're going to do is you're going to do the formula I just gave you, where you take the annual tax and divide it by a number of pay periods. Okay? Those are the three steps that you're going to have to take. These problems will involve a little bit more work to do. However, there isn't very many of them. Okay? You don't have that many total, I promise. So, to go through a couple with you, on page 136, that's where I'm going to be. It says in the directions, use the graduated income tax rates and exemption amounts in figure 2.3 on page 135 to find the tax withheld per pay period. Number 1 says, Eddie Black is single and receives his bi-weekly or every 2 weeks. His annual salary as a tailor for White and Broom is $21,350. Okay, that was number 1. That's all I read there. Now, the first thing is it says his annual salary is $21,350. The chart that they're referring to on page 135 is this one right in the middle. That's what they're referring to on the 135. How many, did it say he was married or single? Single? And according to the single, we get to subtract out 2,000. Did it say he had any dependents? Any dependents? No. So if it doesn't say that he doesn't have any dependents, then how many dependents does he have? If it doesn't give you that number? 0. He doesn't have any. So what is 21,350 minus 2,000? $19,350. So that's the first step. The first step that you have to do is take how much you make in a year and minus out the exemptions. So that was step 1, done. Now, according to that chart, it says on the first $1,000, your tax rate is 1.5%. On the next 2,000, it's 3%, and the next 2,000 after that, it's 4.5%, and anything over 5,000 is at 5%. So this is exactly like graduated commission. All right? So, first and foremost, did Eddie make more than $1,000? Yes, he did. So on the first part, we have 1,000 times 0.015. Why did I take it times 0.015? When it says 1.5%, and I wrote 0.015, what did I do? I just made it into a decimal. Right, Anna, thank you. What's 1,000 times 0.015? 15. Then it says on the next 2,000, he is taxed at 3%. Now, right now, I'm accounting for $3,000 worth of his annual salary. Did Eddie make more than $3,000? Yeah, I did. So what's 2,000 times 0.03? 60 bucks. Then on the chart it says the next $2,000. So right now if I'm adding these numbers up, 1,000 plus 2,000 plus 2,000 is 5,000. Has Eddie made more than $5,000 in the year? Yes. And that's at 4.5%. So how much money is that? 90. Now here's where some of you were getting in trouble with the graduated commission. The next line says on anything above 5,000, it does not say 5,000 goes in there. Okay? Did Eddie make more than $5,000? Yeah. How much more than 5,000? So what I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to take his taxable wages minus $5,000. So what's 19,350 divide or minus 5,000? 14,350. Okay? Again, just to show you this one more time, and this is very similar to that graduated commission, what should those four numbers add up to be? Those should add up to be 19,350. Those should be your taxable wages. If you don't add those together to make that, or if that doesn't work, then you messed up a little bit. A lot of times what some of you were doing is you were just putting 5,000 there because it said on anything over 5,000. You were just putting that number in. You only put the monies above that into that blank. What is 14,350 times 5% or times 0.05? Say it again, Francis. 717.5. Okay. Now if I add those together, what's 15 plus 60 plus 90 plus 717 and 50 cents?
What did I say?
717. Say it again, Anna. 8, what? Okay. That's how much for the year. Okay, that's how much we got for the year. Does it ask how much you got for the year? Or does it ask you how much per pay period? It says how much per pay period, right? And that's why it gives you the words in there. It says bi-weekly. And it says after that 26 paychecks. So what do I do now to figure out this? By the way, up there was step 2. Step 3, you take the annual amount and you divide it by how many paychecks you have. How many paychecks do you have if it's bi-weekly? 26. We're for the year, not necessarily for every 2 weeks. We're for the year. So that's how it's 26. So what's 8.82 and 50 cents divided by 26? $33.9. Was it 9.4 something? Yeah. What was the after the 4? A 2? Okay, so 94. Now the reason why I asked is because what if it would have been like 5 or higher? Then you would have bumped it up to 95. Okay. What do you guys think? It's a lot of work for these. That's why there's not very many of them. Number 2. Lydia Robbins' annual salary from Dressler and Everhard is $67,500. So that's how much she makes for the year. She is married and has 1 dependent. So married, how much money do you get to subtract because you're married? $4,000. How much money do you get to subtract on each dependent? $2,000. So what is $67,500 minus $4,000 and $2,000? $61,500. Right. The other thing that was important in that part was also it said that she's paid monthly. So if you're paid monthly, how many paychecks do you get for the year? 12. I'm just going to stick that number over here on the side. Now, once we get the taxable wages, now we got to go through that chart again. Did Lydia make at least $1,000? Yeah, and then some. So 1,000 times 1.5%. According to last problem, 1,000 times 1.5% was $15. That number isn't going to change. The only time that number changes is if you make less than $1,000 in the year. Then if you're making less than $1,000 in the year, you might want to try to find a different job. Okay? Then it said the next 2,000. Did Lydia make more than $2,000? Yeah, quite a bit more. Was that 3%? You also told me that was $60. Here's the nice thing about today's stuff is hopefully you guys will figure that out, that a lot of these numbers are just the same every time. Just don't miss one. Then on the next 2,000, it was at 4.5%, which was 90, I think you guys told me, right? Now here comes the hard part. How much money did she make over $5,000? So what you do is you take the $61,500 and subtract $5,000 from it. Because we've already accounted for $5,000. So $61,500 minus $5,000 is how much? $56,500. Now, one more thing that I have been noticing. What happens if you would have not put $56,500 and you only would have put $56,50? Is that a problem? Why? Because then you're off one whole decimal place. One whole decimal place means quite a bit of money, doesn't it? It's the difference between 23 and 230 in some cases. That's a lot of money. Okay? So, what's $56,500 times 0.05? Say it again, Francis. 2825. And it comes out evenly? No decimal? Okay. So then I add all those numbers together. 15 plus 60 plus 90 plus 2825.
Wait, you're adding these?
I'm adding these numbers right here.
That's what I thought it was 56,500 times 0.05 plus 2,000.
Oh, no, no, no. Sorry. Equals. 2990. Okay, anybody else get that? All right, just double checking. So 2990 is how much for the year? How many paychecks did it say Lydia had? 12. So now I take that 2990 and I divide it by 12. So what's 2990 divided by 12? 249.16 repeating, so that should bump that up to 17, right? Because behind the 6 is another 6, and 6 is higher than 5, so it bumps up. So, she's getting almost $250 taken out every paycheck for her state. It's a lot of money, right? But she's only getting one paycheck a year, or one paycheck a month, rather than like 2 or more. So that's why it might seem a little bit higher. Now, for the rest of your assignment, just so that you guys know, it says for 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, find the tax withheld, and it's giving you the same thing. Now, 3 and 4 is giving you different tax rates. It's a different state. And then 5 and 6 is just like the ones we did for 1 and 2. Okay? Is everybody all right with that? So, on page 136, I'm going to give you points for those first two. So hopefully you got them down. If you didn't, you just got to redo them. It's only 1 through 6.